The lore around you is it sort of like you found your voice in prison. Like, were you interested in...
That's crazy, because that's not true.
That's just like
that's somebody. I haven't been able to die that down with people yet, because that's somebody wrote that. I did not find my voice in prison. I wasn't a comic. I was a drug dealer.
So where did this prison narrative come from?
Man, somebody wrote that years ago.
It's just something that keeps being repeated?
Yeah, it just keeps being repeated, because I was in prison and I happened to be a jovially sarcastic, funny dude while I was there. It's a bunch of them there. I wasn't the only one, but I'm the only one that got out and probably pursued stand-up.
Hello, I'm Matt Grobar, and this is Comedy Means Business. Today, we're joined by Ali Siddiq, one of the most prolific comedians working today, who, like our last guest, Max Amini, made my list of the comics who won 2025. Born and raised in Houston, Ali's been doing stand-up since the late 90s, going the independent route to build one of comedy's most remarkable careers. Over the last year alone, he has self-released 3 YouTube specials, My Two Sons, Rugged, and Mondays, pulling in tens of millions of views to become the third most viewed comedian across all platforms behind only Nate Bargatze and Jeff Dunham. Ali is poised to play his first arena in May, and outside of his work on his own specials, has turned his YouTube channel into a powerful platform for other comics, producing and releasing specials whose impact has rivaled that of major streaming releases. In this conversation, we dig into how Ali built his empire, what informs his unique level of output, and what the year holds for him. All right, Ali, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So you're coming off an Image Award nomination for My Two Sons, which was one of the biggest specials of the past year. And to my understanding, it's one of the only, if not the only, independently produced special that's kind of got a major accolade like that. So how did the recognition feel? The
nomination definitely felt rewarding as an independent, because that was the whole purpose of constantly plugging at the Emmys and the Image Awards and the Oscars with an independent project, hoping that at one point that independence will get recognized for their work, you know. And also, just because it's on YouTube, I was like, what difference does it make where it's at if people enjoyed it and if it was good work, you know?
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
So that was kind of rewarding, just for the journey of what I'm trying to accomplish as an independent.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, you have a really interesting career you carved out for yourself as an independent. It seems like from the beginning, it's been really important to you to be like a true owner of everything you're doing. What informs that kind of mentality?
I put out the albums first, and then went to the, so to speak, mainstream and said, okay, I'm going to Comedy Central, trying to get on all these other shows. And then I was trying to promote Bigger Than These Bars, and they flagged me. I posted something up and they got copyright infringed
on
of
YouTube?
my own, yes, on my own stuff.
Oh, weird.
And on Instagram, when I put it on Instagram, I was like, wait a minute, I can't promote the special that's on Comedy Central. That was kind of weird. And then I asked about it. They're like, well, we own it. You know, they're imaging of it. They don't own the material. They just own the imaging of it. I'm like, okay. Mm-hmm. So I decided, man, I didn't like that feeling. So I'm like, yo, I want to just, own my own stuff. And so I just went into this mode of trying to make enough money to produce something. And, I had asked, my current director, Eric Abrams, I had asked him, I met him on This Is Not Happening. And I asked him, like, hey, what would it take for you to just shoot my special? Like, what would it take? We talked, and then I got the producer, Matt Schuler, and, along with Joe Eschenbaum, my manager, we just started putting it together. And after that, we've made some great material in my eyes.
100%. Yeah. My Two Sons was one of 3 specials of your own you released this past year, not to mention specials you'd put up for others. How did you arrive at this kind of unusual level of output?
It goes back to, I have the book Applied Advice. And when I go through the book, I think of the things that's most important. All 13 things are really important that's in the book for my development to get me here. Mm-hmm. But one of the biggest things was D.L. Hughley. telling me how the funniest I ever be is based on how honest I want to be. So I just went into this mode of just writing from a very honest place. You know, whatever's happening to me, I'll just format it in the order that it's happening. And I go to the barbershop with it first.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then I talk to my friends. You know, I talk to Marcus a lot on the track about it. So if they're interested, these are people who, man, the barbershop don't care. They don't care. And
what does that look like? You're just going by the barbershop and just performing your act?
Just
okay,
talking. I'm waiting to get my hair cut, and then I say something that's a part of what I want to talk about, and then the argument's going to start. You know, but I'm still working through it. It just comes together, you know, and that's the format that it's been since I started. I always went to the barbershop first, and they never really knew that I was saying stuff that I was going to put on stage until they see it. They were like, he said that in the barbershop. And then the things that happen in the barbershop is always somewhere in the story. Mm-hmm. So me just talking from an honest place gives me the volume. Right now you have Mondays, and I thought about it. All 4 of these things that's in Mondays happen on Monday. Like it started on Monday. I got the call on Monday and that's where it derives. So then the next one that's coming out, getting ready to come out, is My Father, which is a very honest account of the relationship between me and my dad, and me growing up and really realizing that he wasn't a bad father. He just wasn't ideal. And then me thinking that maybe this will help some other people with their issues with whatever parent.
Yeah, and it seems like there's always an undercurrent for you of like, you want your stuff to be good and funny, but you also want it to mean something to people, like where they have something to walk away with, right?
Yeah. So Domino Effect, the first one was like, hey man, you don't really have to be in the streets. There's other things that you can do, and not. And the other line thing was not all hood people that live in a neighborhood sell drugs either. Mm-hmm. You know. So then 2 was dealing with people's misunderstanding of what loss is, and how many different phases of you losing something, and how to kind of deal with it, not compartmentalize it to where you don't deal with it. You try to stuff it down, and then you had this huge blow up. And even with me kind of not dealing with, you know, the death of one of the most important people ever in my life, which is my sister. So, but dealing with the other things, moving away, you know, that's a certain type of losing friends, losing a girlfriend, you know, losing an item, you know, then losing person's life that you know that you value. 3 was basically about being naive to things, not really understanding that the advice that people gave you should have kind of listened to. Now you're in a situation to where you have to start applying that advice as well. You start out with a sort of idea or theme in mind and write from there, or does that kind of come to you after the fact? I start off with it, you know. So even with and sometimes it takes a minute to get the right thing. Like, you know, I'm getting ready to record in weeks, and I just came up with the right thing, because since the special was called My Father, I didn't want to come back with one called My Mother. So it's not called My Mother, it's called My First Love. Okay. And going through the relationship of me and my mom up until now. Mm-hmm. You know, so that is a thing that happens with me. And not all the time have I named them correctly. Mm-hmm. I've written them correctly and then just had the wrong name. So Domino Effect, if it wasn't for Eric Abrams, we probably would have never had a second one, because it would have been called 1983. Where it started, and because it's 1983 when I'm 10. So the whole time I was writing it was called 1983. And Eric, after it was shot, Eric was like, No, I don't think I like that name. And then he's like, nah, man, you should call it the domino effect. There's all these things that kept spiraling.
Cool conceptual framework to have that multi-part special. I kind of, haven't seen that before.
That's the only one. There's never been a 4-part special. I don't think I get the recognition for doing those type of things. It's crazy. Like it gets skipped over. And so when people say, oh, the best comics and they don't never really bring me up, but like, who has a better body of work? I have a very formidable body of work against, if we went body of work for body of work, it's Cosby, Chappelle, Carlin. Because I looked it up one time about people's specials, what the time was. Like how much time was they special? A lot of early specials was like 36 minutes, no more than 40. And I was like, oh, okay. So then when I would write things, it would be an hour plus, hour and a half, hour 20, hour 55, which is Domino Effect 4 is hour 55. And to be able to hold people's attention in that and to not feel that, like it doesn't feel like that. I'm really basically making movies.
Where does the writing process go from the barbershop, like to build an act?
To build out the stories, it's me just doing it in chronological order. This happened first, then this happened. I don't really write a lot of fluff into it. Domino Effect 1, we wanted it was a salute to Richard Pryor. That's why it looked like the 80s. Okay. So then 2, salute to Alfred Hitchcock, black and white.
Okay.
So 3 and 4, salute to Cosby. The background of himself changed colors. And when we did 3 and 4, the mood changed with the background. If people really recognize it was a sunny day, then it got stormy. Then when 4 started, it was stormy. Then it got back sunny because I was getting out. And I do the disclaimer, I'm not saluting Cosby on his things other than his comedy career.
Yeah. So you're someone who can respect and acknowledge the art and kind of separate that.
Yeah, that's totally separate. That's how most people look at things. They separate Elvis from drug use and the young wife. They separate because I didn't know any of that. I just knew the art form.
Right.
So when I go back in a lot of people's history, I'm like, oh wow, that's what was going on. Like I was like, okay, I don't agree, but let me it has something to do with me. I think people don't understand things until they see them. It has changed the perspective of idolizing people. You know what I'm saying? So people idolize people to where they feel like they can't even do any wrong. But certain things, if you paid attention throughout life, it's a lot of people who were one thing and then they had something else going on. But you only saw the one thing. So I don't give anybody 100% of, oh, I'm just some fan that can't see that this could happen. So I always give the example of a drug dealer giving out turkeys during Thanksgiving. Does that erase all the rest of the year of destroying the community because he gave out turkeys during Thanksgiving? So that's a thing with people. Just because somebody did this doesn't mean that they're not that. That's a crazy concept.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned the industry not really acknowledging you in a certain way. Like, have they come to you about specials at this point? Because you've got clearly the audience now that they would want. I don't know if that was a conscious choice where you're like, no, I'm gonna do it on my own, or if you've considered what it would take for you to go and do a Netflix special or whatever.
It would take a significant amount of money, and then it would take a significant amount of negotiation about ownership. Realistically, I don't foresee it. I just don't foresee it, and I'm past a lot of excuses that, I was given. So I'm just floating on my own cloud, and however, like say if YouTube or any other thing try to stop it, I just have we just going direct to consumer. through the website. We just go direct to people. That's just the way of how this thing is moving. And I guess because I live in Houston, you know, and I'm my own situation. And when they don't have anything over my head, they don't have anything that I want. You know, I've gotten past you'll probably never nominate me for an Emmy.
There's something interesting with comedy because it's like, I think there's a disconnect between the comedy community and the real comedy consumer and the people who work in Hollywood. Like, they don't even YouTube specials aren't even eligible for these things like the Golden Globes. And it's like some of the biggest specials and some of the best are on YouTube. But there's a stigma against stuff that is self-released for some reason. And it feels like if you want an Emmy or whatever, you got to have the Netflix special, regardless of the fact that like
Netflix or HBO. And even when I released it on Moment, you know, as a pay-per-view, it was still the same thing with people who had lesser viewership and not as significant as the special wasn't as good. Hey, I get it. So, you know, I kind of lean on, man, just like with the Grammys. I put out an album with a special that superseded everybody who was on the thing, but they only voting for, they not even listening.
Right.
You know, they not listening. So what's the point? And the only thing that keep me going, because it's like I don't want to be defeated by their lack of consideration. So the NAACP Image Awards was a big step in that constant still pushing forward. That was probably the boost in the arm that I needed to say, okay, I'm going to go for the Grammy again. I'm going to go for the Emmys again. I'm going to go for the Oscars again. I'm going to submit again. So if they're ever looking at the artistry and the work, you know, even with a People's Choice Award, it's like, I don't think that the industry understands that you would fare better being honest with artists, you know, and giving the credit what credit is due, because it's a part of the art. It's constantly keeping people in the art, you know, to watch. You know, it's been people that have come back to comedy after giving up and called me and said, and DM me and say, man, I gave up until I saw you. You gave me a different boost in the arm. So that's what the NAACP Image Awards, just the nomination, gave to me is a boost in arm. So yeah, next year I'll be probably submitting for the Grammys with, you know, Mondays and My Father. Whether they vote for me or not, because I know they're not listening. So it's not even about the constant try. The perfection is in the try. Like I say, it may not be me. It may be somebody that comes along after me that was inspired by me. But even with that, sometimes I don't get the credit for, this goes back when people like, well, who's your influence? I've heard people in interviews say that somebody else was their influence that I directly wrote for. Mm-hmm. That I'm like, what? That I directly cultivated.
You wrote for other stand-ups like
I've written for quite a few people.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. What were those experiences like?
I'm writing for people now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Why are you willing to do that?
I'm loyal to the craft. And I think that's where some disdain comes from, because I'm so loyal to the craft, to the artistry of stand-up, that when people prostitute us, it bothers me. It's certain things that I just won't do because I feel like it's a part of selling us out. When people have quote unquote specials, Netflix have done people specials that wasn't really ready. That really wasn't ready. Not only my opinion, but the public's opinion. It wasn't about stand-up. I hate to say this. Well, I don't hate to say it. I hate that what I'm going to say is going to affect that I like them as a person, but crowd work cheapens the art. Mm-hmm. Like totally cheapens the art. I have friends that's in the barbershop that can stand on the stage and pick people out of the audience and talk about. That's not the craft. Mm-hmm. So I think people have gotten so far away from what the craft is.
Yeah.
A sketch person is not a stand-up.
Right.
That's a comedic actor. No disrespect to him, but the craft, I'm loyal to the craft. I have a healthy respect for what you do, but I don't have the respect for you infringing on what the craft is. Mm-hmm. That's a different thing.
Right.
You know, say like a Desi Banks. Desi Banks respects the craft. We've talked. It tickles me. I watch his stuff and I laugh. But Desi is different because Desi has a respect for the craft. Mm-hmm. Then you have other people who are just sketch people because people don't have another name for them. They weren't comedians, you know, which is always weird to me. We're the only art form that people tell other people that they should do.
Right.
Just because they made them laugh one time. You should be a comedian. There's no person who sees a butcher that say, hey, man, you good with knives and you can cut. You should be a surgeon. Mm. And everything is perceived as, oh, he's hating on the thing. No, if I'm dedicated to the craft of stand-up, I'm going to have a healthy respect for people who pour into stand-up versus something else. It's a different thing. A comedic actor is not a stand-up.
Right.
It's two different things. And even with this, if your greatness in comedy is based upon you doing a sitcom or a movie, that's not great to me.
Yeah, exactly. You want to be judged as a stand-up.
As a stand-up.
Right.
What is your resume as a stand-up? So what you can sing, so what you can act. What does that have to do with stand-up? Mm-hmm. It's just a different take on it when it comes to comedy. Now, if you spin off from your stand-up being superb and you go to movies and you go to sitcoms, okay. But did you make your bones in stand-up first? Or did you get your fame off of something else and came to stand-up?
Yeah, seen that a fair amount, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of people who have walked that walk. And then music cues and screen work and all this. This is what specials are becoming. When did stand-up start respecting the music cue? I think I have a different take. So my take is so different on comedy that people get upset with me.
I'm curious though, with like writing for other people, like why do you separate that? Because isn't that giving someone else the credit for what you're doing?
What I do when I write for somebody, I talk to you. And once we talk, I say, hey, what's wrong with this part right here? What's wrong with saying that? Oh, I ain't think to say that. Well, let's say that part. Say that part right there. What's wrong with rearranging? Okay, put this first and then say this.
So you do this mainly with younger comics or more?
Everybody.
Okay, different levels.
Different levels. I have a nice range of people in it, and it doesn't matter ethnic background.
Oh, interesting. You're writing for the whole gamut of people?
Yeah. If me and you talk, I can format it for you. I can look at what you're not saying and say, what about this piece right here? Maybe you need to stop saying I ain't gonna lie to you, and then just take that part out. Take that part out and just say what you about to say. You know, what I can't teach you is to be charismatic. I can guide the stories. I can guide the words. I can place things well, and I can give you a word. You know, sometimes writing for somebody is just giving them a couple different words to say. Mm-hmm. And I'm cultivating you. I don't want you to be me. Mm-hmm. I want you to be you. I'm trying to make you the best form of you.
Right.
Versus, oh, let me give you from my voice. No, we're going to fine tune your voice.
Right.
Not have you sound like me.
Okay, so it's not like material you would perform anyway.
No, it's not. It's definitely not an opportunity. It's like, okay. And you know, and sometimes I give away something that you have a similar story, similar ideology. Well, let me give you my thing that I'm never going to do.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because I used to do jokes, and I've gotten to the point where I'm almost offended when somebody calls anything that I'm doing a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what? I don't have no bits. I have stories.
Yeah.
And I don't tell false stories. That's why if I say that this sounds ultimately terrible to most people. I haven't gone up in a room in a long time just to go up and, I'm finna go try something. What am I trying? To my life? I'm trying out my life.
Mm-hmm.
I just say it the way that it goes. So I haven't written anything in a while.
Mm-hmm. Maybe
like 5 years.
Oh, wow.
So I have formatted the stories down, but I haven't went in and, let me do a take on this. I haven't written anything.
Right.
Well,
you got a different kind of process, it seems like.
Yeah, my process is totally different. It's like when I was asked, had you ever been booed? No. Like when are you talking about? That's a process that young comics go through. That don't even count towards your career.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're trying something. You don't get booed for practice. You don't get booed. I would never even, that's not even logical to bring up, hey man, you got booed. In practice, when the coach is on the field running, the coach is standing there, it's like a scrimmage. You don't get booed for scrimmaging. As a professional is when this actually starts. As you're actually in it. Now you getting booed in 3 minutes? That sounds crazy. I just want people to understand. Does the open mic, getting booed at an open mic, which you shouldn't even get booed at an open mic, first of all, not doing well at an open mic, does that count against your professional career? Mm-mm. It makes no sense. Now, if you got booed as a professional, that this is what you do, this is what you eat, right. This is how you eat, then this is what goes against your record. Like, yo, man, I saw such a thing, he got booed. That's crazy. That's a different feeling. That's a different feeling. So, and then people be wanting everybody to have the same story. Mm-hmm. I didn't drive to Hollywood in the car and sleep in the car for 2 years either.
The lore around you is it sort of like you found your voice in prison. Like, were you interested in...
That's crazy, because that's not true.
That's just like...
That's somebody... I haven't been able to die that down with people yet, because that's somebody wrote that. I did not find my voice in prison.
Yeah.
I started doing stand-up at Just Joking Comedy Cafe in 1997.
Before you went or after?
This after I got out.
Okay.
I wasn't a comic. I was a drug dealer.
Were you interested in stand-up from the beginning, from growing up?
When I was 10.
Yeah.
But I never went.
Okay.
I chickened out. My dad was like, I'm going to take you to this comedy spot. And I was like 11. And then I was like, I don't think I can get in there. He's like, I'll make sure you get in there. I'm like, and then I just chickened out.
So where did this prison narrative come from?
Man, somebody wrote that years ago.
It's just something that keeps being repeated?
Yeah, it just keeps being repeated because I was in prison and I happened to be a jovially sarcastic, funny dude while I was there. It's a bunch of them there. I wasn't the only one, but I'm the only one that got out and probably pursued stand-up.
Do you remember the first time you got on stage and how you did?
Yeah.
How'd it go? Where were you?
Just Joking Comedy Cafe.
Okay.
Booed. Didn't say anything though. This was Apollo night.
They booed you? Wait.
This was Apollo night. They was rappers, singers.
Yeah.
I walked on stage, I said, hey, and they started booing. That's not me doing nothing.
Right.
But 2 weeks later, I came back to that same place. Are
there things from really early on in your career that inform still like what you do as a stand-up now?
Yeah, that's why I open up every show with, hey, because that was the first thing I ever said and I got booed. And I know it wasn't because of what I said, it was because that was the culture of the room. It was called Apollo night, and they was basically doing this whole New York Apollo type thing that you got 30 seconds. That's
Right.
why singers would get on and not really sing songs. They would sing like gospel songs, so you couldn't boo them.
Mhm.
And then rappers and jugglers and poets and all these type of people. So when I walked up, and I think that this taught me observation because I had on a suit because I was coming from work. I said, hey, got booed, walked down. Didn't bother me at all because in my mind, I'm like, I know what this is.
Is it right that they gave you mess with you because your suit is wearing a suit as well?
It was the suit.
Yeah,
That was the
and
thing.
then that's become a signature for you, right? So that's like you're leaning into, like you said, the things that you're embracing.
Everything that, because I knew
Right.
it never made sense to me, which I was like, okay, cool. So I came back, t-shirt, jeans, sneakers. That's literally 2 weeks later. Didn't write down what I was gonna do. Just put my name, got on stage, did my thing. Came back the next week, did my thing. So this is December.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm there December, and then it turns 98. I'm there January. Then February, the lady who owned the club, Alice, made me the co-host of the same Apollo night that I got booed at. And I was there on the weekend. So I was there 98, 99, then I left in 99. Because that's when I got my first episode. I got filmed for my first episode of Comic View. So I was on Comic View in 2000, which it came out 2000, but I filmed it in 99. So within 18 months of me getting out, I'm on TV.
Wow.
That's what people don't really see either. And
that happened fast.
It happened because just the raw determination. But I was the same spot that I got booed at. Then I went, because I didn't say, and then after that, it became every time I would walk up, people would say, hey, because I didn't have on a suit at that time. Now I'm in there hosting it, and I'm a crazy man. I'm in there literally going crazy every Thursday. Because Thursday night was the warm up for me being on the weekend. And so every comic that was headlining at that time that was coming through Just Joking, I was the host. And I was literally going crazy. My first, the 10 minutes when the show starts is probably going to be you're going to have to be a strong middle and a strong headliner, because I am losing my whole entire mind in that 10 minutes. I was way more physical. It was about jokes, and that was the thing. I was rapid fire. But then I started to learn, that time it was really about me learning how to be what I wanted to be. I didn't know how to be no comic.
Yeah.
So then you start to learn the craft, and this is where the respect comes from. Rodney Winfield, man, great comic, would sit at the edge of the bar, and when you would come off stage, Rodney would say something to you if he liked you, but it was definitely negative. Everything he said was negative. Everything, like,
even if he liked you,
you would have to earn a positive thing from him. But he did not talk to you if he didn't like you. So a lot of comics never got even the negative word. So you was honored to get the nigga. Man, I would come off stage, and Rodney was, because how he talk. He would stop me. Ali, come here. Let me talk. let me say something to you. Now you were terrible tonight. And then he would tell you why you was terrible. And all of it was about, because it was anything that somebody else could do. The night, man, I went up and I was cooking one night, just cooking. And I got off stage, and Rodney said, I'm going to tell you this. This was wonderful. The performance was absolutely wonderful.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying? Let me tell you what was so amazing about it. Everything you did, I did in 1974. I was like, what? He's like, yeah. He's like, all that you said, I said in 1974. And he just kept pushing you to find your own voice, which that's what the greats did. There was one just think of how I think about comedy and why I think about it. There was one Don Rickles. There was one Cosby. There was one Red Fox. There was one Carlin. There was one Rodney Dangerfield. There wasn't a spinoff of them. There was one. People who had their own voice and they made their own bones. So when you looked at, there was no other Sam Kinison. There was no other Thea Vidal. There was no other Marshall Warfield. There was one. And you could go to a show and all of them could be there and nobody was going to step on anybody else's style. There was one. Now there's a rendition of this person. That was the thing to look at and be able to see one Robert Townsend, one Eddie, you know?
And that's what you just wanted to move toward. Be the one.
Man, hopefully in the respect for the craft, there's just one person that does that because they have their own voice. That was the attraction to Margaret Cho, or Joan Rivers, or Phyllis Diller, or Mom's Baby. There's just one of them. People coming to see that. There's no other Sinners movie.
Right.
There's no other Life movie. There's one coming to America. I don't even count that second one. You only count the one. When somebody is just that one and they're creative in that space, and then everybody else starts to emulate them. You know, somebody came up with this thing that imitation is the best form of flattery. No, it's not. The best form of flattery is flattery. It's no in paying homage to respecting what somebody does.
So for you, once you had kind of found your voice, like what was the process of finding your audience? Like you've got this tremendous digital following. Like, can you describe like what it took to build that following on the road and online? Like the digital part of it is for sure a big part of it these days.
That's a process that I can't explain how people got to me. You know, that's a part of the marketing team. Ryan does a great job with that. I think that it's like with any other thing, people found something that they liked, that they could relish in, that wasn't short form, that was long form. And it's like, oh, I kind of like this. Then new people find out about me. And it's like, you know, I have a healthy respect for the audience. Like a guy asked me, man, do you ever get nervous? I said, every show. Every single show. That's the respect to the audience. I'm not taking it for granted, so I'm not coming out there half-assing for them. So how people got interested in me, I think that's the formula that came from Billy D. Washington when he didn't ask in the book, Applied Advice. It's things that I just applied. Billy said to me, Ali, when you're not being funny, be interesting. And I was like, okay. So I think people got interested in me.
What was the evolution though? Like, was there a year where you felt like, whoa, like this is starting to really
This is not happening.
Okay. This is not happening. Which is when again?
2015.
2015.
Yeah. When I did Mexican Got On Boots, I think that long form show kind of changed everything. You know,
because it suited your skill set.
It suited my skill set. You know, they were trying to put me on Adam Devine's Party House, and I was like, what? Like, so that's a big shout out to Chase DeRusso. So if you think about how I'm so in love with the craft that I don't skip over what young comics have to say either. So Chase is a very young comic. He is was a waiter at the Improv in Houston. I think he's the one that created the lab at the Improv.
Oh, right.
Yeah, those small rooms. So when he called me, he said, hey, I think that you should do Ari Shaffir's show. I said, what's the show? So he sent me a clip on YouTube. I watched it and I was like, yo, I like this. He said, yeah, man, you tell stories. This is perfect. You know, so then that same year, Comedy Central was bringing his show on Comedy Central from the internet, which was a pioneering move, you know, coming from the internet to Comedy Central. I'm on the inaugural season. Okay. Then that story goes crazy. Now, mind you, I am against telling this story. A lot of my friends know the story. Bill Bellamy keeps saying, man, at some point, man, you're going to have to tell one of these prison stories.
Right.
And I was like, Bill, I don't want to be, because I said, once I do it, people going to try to pigeonhole me.
Right, exactly.
Into, oh, all he's talking about is prison. I'm like, what? They going to miss all the years that I did stand up prior to that. 17 years before I ever did a prison story.
Right.
17. So, and was on this came in 15. I was the season finale on HBO's Def Comedy Jam in 08. I was on Last Comic Standing in 2011. I had comedy albums out already. I had been on Comic View. I'd been on Who's Got Jokes. I'd been on a bunch of TV shows prior to me doing Comedy Central's Ari Shafir's This Is Not Happening. So then after that, I did that story. And then I did this story called Mitchell, which was another story about me about to kill this CO that disrespected me. So then when I came back, having a lot of love for the craft, Ari had did a special with another network. Comedy Central had got upset about it, and then he wasn't on the show anymore. Then they was bringing the show back, and Roy Woods Jr., friend of mine, was doing the show. So I had called Eric and Ari. I'm like, hey, they asking me to do this show. It's on y'all if I do it or not. If I'm not doing it if y'all against it. That's for sure. So both of them said, hey, do the show. Eric was producing, was directing it, and Ari wasn't going to be on it. But Ari said, man, do the show. So I still paid homage to Ari on the show because I did a story about doing mushrooms, which Ari gave to me. So I'm still, Ari gave me this, Ari, doing my whole thing. The mushroom story was another big hit. So I think This Is Not Happening episodes kind of got people just like, yo, he tells really good stories. And so then when I did the half-hour special with Comedy Central, then I did the full hour special with Comedy Central. And it was once again me telling stories and being compelling in these stories was, was a part of the craft. And I'm still getting better. I'm not all the way to where I want to be yet. I'm still pushing the envelope. So after that, I don't think people didn't realize that Domino Effect wasn't about prison. Domino Effect 2 wasn't about prison. Then Domino Effect 3 and 4 was about, because it was the transition of me, how I even got to prison. And then it was this whole thing, all he can do is tell prison stories, which kind of upset me a little bit. So then I dropped Don't Judge a Book by Its Cover, PTA story. Then I came back with My Two Sons and Rugged. The show, that's not all I've done in the 52 years I've been on this planet. That was a 6-year stay of my life. That's not the only thing. And then in comedy, that's started in 2015. I had been doing it since December 4th of 1997. Just to show the range. Yeah. And so out of everything, to get, once again, to circle back to that, to get nominated for My Two Sons over A Prison Story is once again, exhilarating, Yeah. And that's just me telling the story about my two sons. And I think it's things in My Two Sons that people don't catch. Because I say in there that I have 2 sons. One of them I can give a kidney, and one of them I'm gonna have to buy one for. They don't realize that this is my stepson that I've been with since he was 5. Me and his mother has been separated since he was 15. But he's 32.
Oh, wow.
And he's still with me.
Yeah.
He's still with me over this whole entire time. Most of the times when the relationship dissolves with 2 people, you don't still have a relationship with the kid. He has a sister. I have a daughter by his mom. She's 27, but he has been with me this whole time. And if I called him, the first thing when he pick up the phone, he's like, "What's up, Pops?" It's going to be that, which is a different type of relationship to be that close to him. And this is a very unique relationship for me. I had an abusive stepfather that I hated. I said I would never do anybody's child like this. For me to be one and being as loving and as caring and responsible as I've been after being abused by a person. And that's why I don't believe in hurt people. If you hurt and you understand that you was hurt, then you should pivot from that position.
Do something else.
To do something else.
Yeah.
I pride myself on being everything that people say that I couldn't be. You know, they said I couldn't make it out of Houston as a comic. You would have to move to LA. You would have to move to New York. You know, you might want to go to Atlanta. And I was like, I didn't see the need. Everybody has come to Houston to do some type of work with me.
How have you calibrated how you've climbed up in terms of venue? Because you're just doing your first arena this summer, but it feels like you could have probably been playing arenas maybe a while ago, but you've been doing theaters for a few years and jumping up in numbers consistently. Like, how have you thought about that?
I've just been trying to figure out how to keep it intimate. That's the thing, the intimate feel of it. And I'm very excited about going to the arenas. That's a wild concept. And I thought about it at some point, man, I'm going to play the Toyota Center in Houston. You know, it's just my mindset. Like, you know, I was coming from these rooms, then going to the mainstream comedy club, and then they rebuilding and making it bigger at the Improv, and me going there, and then me stepping up to, that was it. When I think about it, that was a big jump to come from the clubs to the Smart Financial.
Yeah.
And so we've done Smart Financial twice. I think I'm there New Year's Eve. That's going to be the New Year's Eve thing for me. But at some point, I want to jump up to actually walking through that tunnel to the Toyota Center. You know, and being honest, that is extremely great. Like, big up to Chicago, New York, Atlanta, Baltimore, Charlotte. You know, the celebrity in Phoenix. It's been wonderful. But the overall goal is to sell out your hometown.
Sure.
Especially Houston. Houston is not the most supportive place for other crafts outside of music.
All right.
You know, we have a huge jazz scene, we have a huge blues scene, we have a huge rap scene. So, you know, we the home of Beyonce and Destiny's Child and Travis Scott and Bun B and Zero and Slim and man, the list, Lil O, and you know, we the home of independent labels. You know, a lot of independent artists. You know, so to be a comic and to be at this level out of Houston, like, I don't believe in you gotta go somewhere else and then come back. Why you can't see me in the flesh and my rise and what I go through in the flesh? because I'm from your neighborhood. This is where I'm from. So if somebody's going to benefit from my work ethic, my creativity, my determination, you have to see it because you're from where I'm from. So where does your motivation come from if I'm not here? So every comic in Houston, how do I motivate you? How do I cultivate you? How do you benefit from my knowledge of the game if I'm not here? If I'm in New York, then you never see me.
Let's talk about that. Like, it's one of my final questions is just like, you've really made a clear effort to elevate other comics using your own platform to help boost them, producing their special or just distributing it. Why has that been important to you, and how have you thought about who you want to put a spotlight on? Like Marcus, I just watched his new special. It's really great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for him. Yeah, I thank you for him. It's kind of like this. I never want to be the only one. I want everybody around me to be successful in whatever they're doing. So in that, if I say I believe in you, I don't just believe in you, then you never see me.
Well, let's talk about that. Like, it's one of my final questions is just like, you've really made a clear effort to elevate other comics using your own platform to help boost them, producing their special or just distributing it. Why has that been important to you, and how have you thought about who you want to put a spotlight on? Like Marcus, I just watched his new special. It's really great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for him. Yeah, I thank you for him. It's kind of like this. I never want to be the only one. I want everybody around me to be successful in whatever they're doing. So in that, if I say I believe in you, I don't just believe in you in words. I believe in you in actions, and I believe in you financially. So I'm going to take it upon myself with whatever knowledge that I know, whatever I can pull together to make you successful. That's a part of my legacy as well. That's a part of my generosity. That's a part of my blessings as well. Rodney Dangerfield. That's when people look at the people that I pattern myself after. If you look at their character, it's a part of that same cloth. Rodney Dangerfield could have did the show himself, but he chose to bring other people up with him, and he was 55. He was already, it's just, when you have a Frank Sinatra that I'm coming to the correspondence dinners, but I'm not coming if Don can't come.
Yeah.
Then it's those things, Ice Cube not writing a movie without DJ Pooh. That these are the things that you do for people that you believe in and that you care about. You want to see his family doing well. He's in the same craft. We spend a lot of time together, families and us working out, and our relationship has grown tremendously. And then with Ryan, you don't want somebody to deny somebody. That's what they did. Okay, well let's prove to them why they shouldn't have did that. I'm doing what mass majority of comics, and I'm saying mass majority. Matter of fact, I'm saying 99.7% of comics would never do for me. They'd do for people who don't need it. They wouldn't do for me. They're not opening up their audience for me. They're not opening up their audiences to me. So that 3%, is DL, is Bill Bellamy. That's the people who decided to, hey, I'm gonna take him on the road with me. That was a blessing. And in that blessing, you pass that blessing on to other people. It's not a lot of comics that's gonna post my stuff up on their page because they feel like they're in competition with me. We're not even on the same grid.
Yeah.
But I can only lead by example. Whatever the numbers are that I have, the people belong to the people. The people don't belong to me. They don't belong to me. They fans of my art. And let me introduce y'all to not just my art, some other artists that you may be interested in. Mm-hmm. I don't understand the level of selfishness.
It's not a zero-sum game. Yeah. Everybody can win.
Everybody can win. And I hate to say this, that I used to go to shows, and this is what I say about growth. I would go to shows I'm just simply say in my community, that it would be these shows that we tape and it would be like this whole competitive thing. I'm going to do the best. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Then I would go to mainstream shows. Taping This Is Not Happening was the most, and big shout out to Ari and Eric and the whole team that had to do with This Is Not Happening. Because I don't think they understood what they did for me. They kind of solidified what I already thought. Going to tape This Is Not Happening and being in this environment where every person wanted every person to do well. It wasn't a competition. It was everybody needs to do well. Mm-hmm. You know why everybody needs to do well? Because we need another season. And I don't think that your story is infringing on my story. I'm not in competition with you on this show. This is going to be a great show because the environment is a comics environment of happiness. So going to other places, you making it competitive. Comedy realistically is not competitive. It's subjective. It's not competitive. Everybody in an audience doesn't laugh at the same time about the same things anyway. I'm not in competition with you. I'm in competition with my bills. My bills. You know what I'm saying? Yep. And I'm in competition with my form of artistry.
Right.
It's been, I hope that every comic gets to this level. When you interview Marcus one day, he'll tell you that this is the true level of this artistry. Marcus has seen me and get standing ovations and walked off the stage to a standing ovation, and the first thing I said, man, I was out there just messing up. I didn't do what I wanted to do. Man, I bailed out of this. I bailed out of this story. Oh, I didn't do this. Man, I was tripping. I wasn't on my note. And he used to not understand. You just got a standing ovation. But I'm past that. It's the art of it. And then he got to a level where he would come off stage and like, man, I miss doing this. I miss doing that. Because it's like you're trying to give the best performance. And sometimes, because they don't know, it's like being in a play. They don't know the script. So if I miss a line, they don't know. Just keep talking. just keep the movement. But then after you come off, the director or the writer say, hey man, you missed this line. You're like, yeah, I know I dropped the line. Is that your best performance just because they stood up? No. The best performance is when it's complete in you. Right.
It's about you, not about how whatever it's being received. What else do you got going on this year beyond what we've talked about?
Well, I've taken on another challenge. In Dallas, I taped 2 specials at the same time, which was Rugged and My Two Sons. And in Detroit, I taped 3 specials at the same time. So
the same time, meaning what? Back to back? Or?
Yeah, back the day at like Friday and Saturday.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So in Detroit, I taped 3. So Monday's My Father and The Dog. So those 3 specials are the other 2 are about to come out. So in Virginia, I'm taping 4 in 2 days.
Oh my God.
So, and then, some people's specials that are getting ready to come out that I assisted with. And, hopefully, this sitcom idea develops, and I put that on the channel. So that's
a sitcom you would self-release?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, we back. We trying to stay all the way independent. Yeah.
Very good.
So put out an album and see what the Grammys do.
Well, it's an amazing career. Congrats on everything, and thank you so much for taking the time to share your story with us.
Oh, thank you for your support. I'm not oblivious to, and I was very excited to get an article or get mentioned with you guys. So I thank you for your support.
Of course. All right. Thanks, Ali.
No trouble.